You're listening to Iceland News Review, the weekly news podcast of Iceland Review. Subscribe and tune in each Friday to get the latest from our fair shores. I'm Andy Sophia Fontaine, and these are the week's top stories in Iceland. First up on Iceland News Review, presidential elections. And then there were 11. That's right, 11 candidates are running for the office, a record in Icelandic history. The closest we got to this number was in 2016, when 9 people ran for president. With elections coming up on June 1st, there is a lot of contention between the candidates, especially those at the top of the polls. The top 3 are, in fact, according to the latest polls, all within a single percentage point of one another. Halla Hrund, the energy director and board member of the Energy Fund, political scientist Baldur Þórhallsson, and former Prime Minister Katrín Jakobsdóttir. Less than 10 points behind them is writer and former Reykjavik mayor Jón Gnarr. All other candidates are polling in single digits. The office of president, in Iceland at least, is not a political one. Candidates do not represent a political party, but the nation as a whole. One important aspect of this is the use of the presidential veto. If Parliament passes a bill that the president deems too unpopular to sign into law, the president may refer the bill instead to national referendum, as happened during the Icesave debacle of 2011. While only citizens may vote in Icelandic presidential elections, not all citizens have a perfect command of Icelandic. For this and other reasons, we will be covering these candidates in depth in our next issue of Iceland Review, so stay tuned. Artist Björk Guðmundsdóttir has entered the fray in support of a petition calling upon Parliament to vote against a controversial fishing bill. She announced this support on X, formerly Twitter. The bill, already submitted to Parliament by Minister of Fisheries Bjarkey Olsen Gunnarsdóttir of the Left Green Party, would change the law regarding operation licenses for fishing farms in Iceland. The specific change would be to make these licenses indefinite. As it is, they run for 16 years with an option to extend them. If passed, current license holders would have control over one of Iceland's most valuable resources for possibly longer than before. The bill has been met with opposition from numerous groups, including the Federation of Icelandic River Owners and the Icelandic Wildlife Fund. Björk's tweet rhetorically asked, quote, "Do you want to give our fjords to the rich?" end quote, followed by a link to a petition calling for the bill to be withdrawn. The bill is extremely unpopular among the general public, with the week-old petition already garnering over 5,000 signatures. Whether through Björk's influence, the petitions, or some other reason, the minister recently announced she would be amending the bill in question. What changes will be made still remains to be seen. So you're probably aware that there is an ongoing eruption in Reykjanes, southwest Iceland. There is also a good chance that another eruption is on the way, but even if there weren't, the ongoing eruption crater is not a site to visit. Southernest police have repeatedly warned people to stay away from the area, and have in fact had to turn away several tourists trying to visit the eruption site. So, here's why you should stay away from the eruption area. First of all, lava. It can appear cool on its surface, but still be molten underneath, days or even weeks after the fact. Second, there's the gas. Eruptions emit toxic gases such as sulfur dioxide and carbon monoxide, which can cause respiratory distress, pain, or kill you. Third, as mentioned, another eruption may be coming very soon, and scientists believe it would provide little to no warning, and you do not want to be standing on the spot where a volcanic fissure opens up. Remember that there are people who have had to evacuate their homes because of this geological event. It is not a tourist attraction. Rest assured that Iceland, being as seismically active as it is, will likely have a less destructive, more approachable eruption soon, even if just on a geological scale. Remember the daylight heist we reported on last March? For the unfamiliar, 2 as-yet unidentified people staged a daring heist of a security van collecting money from video slot machines in Kópavogur, making off with between 10 and 20 million ISK. For weeks now, there have been no leads in the crime, but all that changed this week. First off, some of the money seized in the heist was reportedly found in circulation, identified by being stained with blue dye. The money the robbers seized was in bags secured with blue dye packs. Interestingly, this money was reportedly found in other video gambling machines. Second, a suspect is in custody. identified only as a man in his 40s, who will remain in custody until at least May 7th. Speaking of crime news, a would-be drug smuggler made a bold defense in Reykjavik District Court recently. The man in question was stopped at Keflavik International Airport and found to be carrying some 700 grams of cocaine, both internally and stuffed into his underwear. The man did not deny that the cocaine was his, but said that he had in fact bought it for personal use. He further argued that such a quantity would last him a year or two, and that he bought so much of it because buying in bulk was cheaper. Unsurprisingly, the judge was not convinced of this argument and sentenced the man to 18 months in prison for smuggling. Geese and airports do not mix. The domestic airport in Iceland, northeast Iceland, receives passengers from all over the country and the world, but some are more welcome than others. Geese are a seasonal presence at the airport, and as they pose a risk to planes, people, and themselves, the task of shooing them away is an important one. Geese flock to this area by the thousands each spring and have likely done so for centuries before this airport was ever here. However, flights need to depart from the airport in the morning, and before they can, employees of the airport move up and down the runway, scaring geese away with the honking of horns. But honking horns is not the only weapon in the airport's arsenal against geese. Laser pointers also keep the geese at bay effectively enough, as well as high-pitched whistles that the geese find unpleasant. There is also the concern about younglings, as geese are prone to build their nests near the runway. For this, fences are used, or sometimes the eggs themselves are moved. Nonetheless, geese and airplanes alike use very similar flight paths in this part of Iceland and others. It is likely that keeping geese away from their larger, mechanical cousins will be an ongoing job for as long as airplanes exist in Iceland. Lastly, on Iceland News Review, in heartwarming news, a firefighter and rescue worker for the capital area fire department walked 100 kilometers from Akranes to Reykjavik while pulling a sled that initially weighed 100 kilos. This event was done to raise awareness and funds for the suicide prevention group PIETA. In addition to the sled, he also wore a vest upon which were affixed some of the symptoms of or conditions that may lead to someone in danger of taking their own life: melancholy, depression, anxiety, worry, suicidal ideation, guilt, trauma, violence, and addiction. Every 10 kilometers, 10 kilos were removed from the sled and a symptom removed from his vest. Having departed in the early morning, the man reached Reykjavik in the afternoon with a group of people joining him for his last few kilometers. The last weight was removed from the sled when he reached his destination at last in a joyful, tearful celebration. If you like hearing about news from Iceland, maybe you'd like to visit sometime. But what if I told you that you could win a free trip to Iceland too? Visit our webpage at icelandreview.com to learn more, but hurry, this contest ends on May 17th. Next up, the weather this weekend. Friday will see cloudy skies across the whole country with rain in the south, although winds should be relatively calm and temperatures warm. This rain will begin to move across the entire country through the afternoon and get heavier, but by the evening, skies should clear up in the west. Come Saturday, warm and sunny skies should continue in the west with some light showers in the east that should end by the evening. It will be a rainy Sunday morning for most of the country, but that should end around lunchtime, with skies clearing up in the west in the afternoon, with some scattered showers in the evening. As for road conditions, bear in mind that all roads into the highlands are closed to regular traffic, so don't try heading up there unless you're in a glacier tour group or something similar. Also, avoid the eruption site at all costs, and do not stop by the side of Reykjanesbraut to photograph or film the eruption. Apart from that, road conditions are fair around the ring road. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, or X. For all your travel needs in Iceland, be sure to visit n.veður.is. That's en.vedur.is, as well as road.is and safetravel.is. Through these three websites, you'll get up-to-the-minute information on weather and road conditions, as well as possible incoming natural events. By staying updated through these sites, you'll not only save yourself a lot of time and money, you'll also be able to enjoy Iceland with peace of mind. That's all for me this week on Iceland News Review. Be good to each other.